This Excel lesson will introduce you to creating charts in Excel, along with extending your knowledge of using functions and formulas. We're going to be creating a table of values for a quadratic and using formulas to calculate the y values for us, and then we're going to see how we can easily plug that into a chart. So we're going to start by creating a table of values for the function y is equal to x squared. Now, on Excel, to use a squared, you have to put a little hat like that. So Shift 6 gives you this little hat symbol, and put a 2. That's the same thing as x squared. So we're going to start our table of values, x tab y. I'm going to format those, center them, and I'm going to create a basic table. So I'm going to put a bottom border on that, and put a right border on that. Okay, so I'm going to go from -5 all the way to +5. So I'm going to type -5, enter, -4, enter. If you're writing in consecutive numbers, select the first 2 or 3, and then click and extend those numbers down. So if I click on the bottom right corner and drag down, you can see each cell is filling up right that number there with the next number. So they just go in continuous order. So extend that till you get 5, or just manually put those numbers in. Now, to calculate the first y value, we're going to type in an equals, because our formulas always start with an equal sign. And we want to square whatever value is in the x. So I'm going to click on the actual cell, so I get the cell reference. And I'm going to put my little hat symbol in and put it 2. So this means it's going to take -5 and it's going to square it. I should get 25, so I'm going to hit enter and see if I get that answer. Perfect. So now I'm going to extend this formula. I don't want to have to type it in 11 times. So I'm just going to click on the bottom right hand corner, see when my mouse turns into a black solid plus sign, and I'm going to drag it all the way down. And I should get what looks like a nice setup for a parabola. I have to double check that. I can either graph it myself or I can use Excel to chart it for me. So I'm going to select everything, including the x and the y, along with all the values, and I'm going to go to the Insert tab. After I click on it, I can see there's a lot of options, especially in the Charts section. I'm just going to pick a basic scatter plot. I'm just going to plot these points. And if I want to see what a chart's going to look like, I can just hover over it, meaning I don't click yet. If I just hover over this scatter plot here, I can see that it gives me a preview. Maybe I'm going to want one that actually connects up the lines, because that's eventually what we're going to do. So I'm going to pick this scatter plot here. And it's not a perfect parabola, but it looks pretty darn good. We're going to go over one more example of a slightly more complicated equation. So anytime, if you want to create a new workspace, you can just do it in a brand new sheet. Down along the bottom, if you just press this plus button right here, you'll add a brand new sheet. Okay? So I'm going to create a table of values for this expression here. Y is equal to -x squared minus 2x plus 15. We'll see that we need to be really careful with that negative at the front when we're dealing with Excel. So we're going to start with our x and y. Start with -5, enter, -4, enter. As soon as I have 2 values, I can select both of them like that. Click on the bottom right hand corner and extend them right down. Oop, too far. Now, in the y column, I'm going to put my formula, my equation. So for that negative in front, I always start with the equals. That negative in front, I'm going to put a negative, but to make sure that that negative takes hold, I'm going to put the x squared in a bracket. So I'm going to open up the bracket, click on the x value, I'm going to square it by putting that little hat. Remember that's Shift 6, and then put a 2. Now I'm going to close my bracket. That way I'm sure that it squares it first. Otherwise, Excel doesn't always follow the proper rules when you're putting negative signs on. And then I'm going to subtract, take away 2 times. My multiplication sign is that star. It's Shift 8 on the keyboard. So 2 times my x value. And then the last bit, I'm going to go plus 15. So my equation here looks very different than what it looks like up here. But if we do that out by hand, we should get a 0. If I press enter, you see we get 0. So we can check our answers if we want. And I'm going to extend this equation all the way down, so I don't need to type it in again. I can see my values increase, 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 and then they start decreasing again, so this looks like the vertex to me. And then it starts decreasing, 15, 12, 7, 0, and it keeps decreasing further than that. So once again, I'm going to graph this, select the entire table, including the X and Y headers, go to the Insert tab, and I want to pick a different, you can see what different types of charts look like. A scatter plot would look like that. I'm going to connect it up with the line though. So that's my vertex. I have a y-intercept, and I have 2 x-intercepts from there. Now try these 5 questions on your own, these 5 equations, each on a separate page. Once again, click on the plus button down here to add an extra sheet. So on each sheet, create a table of values, like we did here, and plot the graph.